From the City of Angels off the Pacific Ocean, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, across the nation, around the world. I'm George Norrie, and yes, welcome to the world's most listened to late-night talk show, Coast to Coast AM. Open lines at the half hour this hour. Next hour, The Intelligent Universe with James Gardner. This is shaping up to be an incredible night. Well, here we go. Iran's President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has rejected international calls for Iran to suspend uranium enrichment. Now, this is a day before a UN deadline runs out. He said Iran would only do so if other countries seeking the suspension stop producing nuclear fuel themselves. Mr. Ahmadinejad said that he wants talks on his nation's nuclear program, but only if preconditions were imposed. Details have emerged of U.S. contingency plans for airstrikes on Iran. The U.S. insists it is not planning to attack and is trying to use diplomacy to persuade Tehran to stop uranium enrichment. Iran insists its program is for civil use only, but Western countries suspect Iran is trying to build nuclear weapons. Hossein Hijazi is a program director and show host for KIRN 670 Radio Iran in Los Angeles. He's been invited to take part in many radio shows. He's an active member of the Iranian community. Hussein holds a weekly radio show talking to scholars and analysts regarding Iran. We're going to chat with him very briefly now about this situation. Welcome back, Hussein. How are you?
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me on your show, Mr. Norrie, and it's a pleasure to be here.
My pleasure. Now, this situation with Iran still seems to be heating up. Even though they keep coming up with new deadlines, it seems like we're coming to the end here. Are we?
Yes, and it's very unfortunate because despite the fact that there are some moderate people in Iran that are inside the government that are trying to stop Mr. Ahmadinejad, for some reason, he keeps going with the rhetorics that he has started, and we don't see any change on his tone of voice.
Now, we had you on a couple months ago. You thought, well, I don't know, maybe diplomacy might get something resolved here. At this point, Hussein, what do you think might happen?
Well, from what we know about the regime of mullahs, they are very, very smart on playing games to the end, and then with some kind of with some kind of action, they can just find a way to get away from what they have said before. But this is just a wishful thinking as far as I'm concerned, because I was hoping that by now they learn the lesson and know that this is a dangerous game that they are playing. But another side of the story about their beliefs, their fanaticism, and the belief that this person has to the 12th Imam that is going to come and help him to conquer the world and do all those nonsenses that he thinks is something that makes everybody concerned.
What does your experience tell you that could happen in the next couple months?
Well, I'm hoping that those moderate forces in Iran that are getting together, and they have made a coalition of the ex-presidents, means Rafsanjani and Khatami, and they had a declaration today that they don't want this to go any further from what it has been so far. We are hoping that those forces can balance the situation and get to a type of resolution with the United Nations, or we may go some further and get to a point that with new rules and new statements from United Nations Security.
I understand. Now,
I'm sorry. Those.
Now, also, 11 Revolutionary Guard members were killed. They were bombed. The suspect was hanged in the scene of the crime there.
Yes.
What's happening internally there, Hussein?
Well, internally we have had this commotion and this situation, this agitation in one part of Iran, which are Baluchis. These people are, there's a provinces in Iran by the name of Sistan. And there are these people that have been under pressure a lot because they are mostly Sunnis. And this uprising over there is nothing new, and it has been going on for a long time so far.
Do the Iranians expect the United States to attack?
They do. They're very concerned. They're very concerned.
And do you believe, as an expert in Iran, that is a likely possibility?
Well, the way that we are progressing, the way that the things are developing these days, I'm very concerned because despite the fact that the administration keeps denying that has any plan to attack Iran, but with the big gathering of the Iranian forces in Persian Gulf, and we know that they are doing another exercise over there, huge gathering of the military forces and the Iranian Navy in that area, and even some kind of boats that are going very close to Basra. You have to be familiar with the geography of that place, which you can see each other. The Iranian can see the Basra from Iranian soil and vice versa.
Yeah, it just all appears that something's going to happen really soon. Thanks, Hussein. Appreciate you being on the program. And again, we'll always tap into your expertise during this Iranian situation. You talk about fanatics. A Pakistani minister, female, she's a woman's activist. She's been shot dead by an Islamic extremist for refusing to wear the veil. She was killed as she was about to deliver a speech to dozens of activists by a fanatic who believed that she was dressed inappropriately and that women should not be involved in politics. As President George W. Bush struggles against legislative opposition to a strategy to increase U.S. forces in Iraq, a top ally has now moved in the opposite direction by offering a drawdown schedule for its forces. Prime Minister Tony Blair of Britain set to announce a new conditionally based plan to make it possible to bring 1,500 British troops home from Iraq in the next several weeks. We'll be talking with John Curtis, onlinecolumnist.com, about that situation in just a moment. Pharmaceutical giant Merck & Company is immediately suspending its lobbying campaign to persuade state legislatures around the country to mandate that adolescent girls get the company's new vaccine against cervical cancer as a requirement for school attendance. The drug maker had been criticized by parents, doctors, and this program for quietly funding the campaign via a third party to require 11 and 12-year-old girls to get the 3-dose vaccine in order to attend school. A Brazilian woman is set to sue a hospital after discovering that the cause of her 23-year-old stomach ache was a scalpel left in her body. The 5-centimeter scalpel was found in her lower abdomen after doctors took an X-ray. Doctors at a public hospital left the surgical instrument there in 1984 when she gave birth through a C-section. And also I get this email in from Dave. He says, George, Sunday night around Seattle was covered overnight with a heavy accumulation of dust. No, it wasn't snow. It wasn't volcanic ash. Nobody knows what it was. So during open lines, those of you in the Seattle area, give us a call. Tell us what you think all that was. He said it was about an inch and a half deep over quite a large area of Seattle. That's incredible. Okay, in a moment, we check in with John Curtis to get his reaction to Tony Blair deciding to pull out some troops out of Iraq. And John has also written a very interesting article about the breakdown of Britney Spears. That's all next on Coast to Coast AM. John Curtis is the editor of OnlineColumnist.com. He's also columnist for the Los Angeles Daily Journal, director of the Los Angeles think tank, specializing in corporate consulting and strategic training. He's a seminar trainer, as well as considered the nation's leading authority on spin damage control. He's our guest on Coast to Coast. Hey, John, welcome back.
Hey, George, how are you?
Always a pleasure. Good. Now, this situation with Tony Blair announcing a timeline to pull out at least 1,500 soldiers. He's under a lot of pressure.
Well, he's been hammered for years about this as being a lackey of Bush. And, I mean, it really has taken him down. I mean, Blair, as you know, is probably one of the most popular prime ministers in British history.
Until recently.
Up until recently, sure. And if it were not for his involvement in Iraq, I think that he would be a shoo-in for as many terms as he'd want. I mean, he'd get the approval. Now, Gordon Brown is due to succeed him in September. But Bush has taken his toll on, on Blair's political future, which is, I mean, in many respects, you can't blame Blair for lending the support, and I think most Americans are quite grateful to it. But it was, when Rumsfeld was I guess it was a day after the mid-year election was dumped. You're talking about Bush losing his biggest salesman on Iraq, and things have kind of gone downhill from there. This latest troop surge, of course, is possibly going to push a better perimeter around Baghdad for controlling some of the violence, but most people don't think that it's really going to put much of a dent in the insurgency.
Yeah, they've got about 7,200 members, force members in Iraq, so they're going to pull out 1,500. They'd like to get it down by 3,000 by the end of 2007. Obviously, sign of the times for them. They're pulling out, John.
Well, they are, and I think most of the other. I think there's been some recent. Believe the Italians are pulling out, if that hasn't already taken place. And as you know, the Spanish pulled out. The Aussies are left now. John Howard down there is, of course, bashing Barack Obama for daring to suggest that the Iraq situation is really deteriorated and suggesting we shouldn't even be there. So I think the policy, the whole structure of the Iraq war is disintegrated when the rug was pulled out from underneath Rumsfeld. And it's really quite tragic because I think now you've got McCain out there. I mean, just slamming Rumsfeld. I mean, and prior to this, I mean.
Well, isn't that justified?
Well, I think is Rumsfeld the one who sets the policy, or is the policy set at the Office of Special Plans inside the Pentagon
tell you, John,
with the Vice President?
I was going to say there's been talk that the policy was set by Cheney and Rumsfeld together.
Well, of course. I mean, in this Libby trial, I mean, you take a look at how this thing has really exposed the extent of how the Vice President conducts business. I mean, right in front of the American public, I mean, just right out there has been exposed that Vice President reads the New York Times. Well, he doesn't like what somebody writes an op-ed piece, so he decides, well, here, take this information. His wife works for the CIA, and basically, let's retaliate. Let's trash her. And so this is, and the thing about Libby that I think is so tragic in a way is that there's an expectation. It seems like it's in Cheney's office at least, and it looks like in the White House also, that these are not elected officials. These are kings, and the people that work for them are to commit any act of treason. It seems that lie, cheat. I mean, to do anything in order to protect their boss, and that's the tragic part for Libby. That's what he was doing. I mean, the guy was just trying to protect Cheney up the chain of command, and look at the mess that he got himself into, and the exposure of the public relations damage that they go through, the machinations to deal with one man's editorial that only talked about the fact that they twisted intelligence. I mean, really, what did Wilson really say that everybody else?
Okay, well, let's not talk too much about that. I'm more concerned about the Iraq situation.
But I mean, I think it's all connected. It's all connected because Iraq, the British pulling out, and the questioning of the whole basis for the war, and now the 2 years of continuous denials on the part of the White House, and that there's a civil war going on, and that the U.S. is between it, and we're getting hammered over there. I think it's all coming to roost right now.
Do you see this as just a ploy to slowly pull out of Iraq and concentrate on Iran?
Well, I don't think there's any question that they're going to have to deal with Iran, and I think your guest is, I think his instincts, you could really perceive his instincts of something in the works over there, and I do think that, Bush has made it emphatically clear that he is not going to allow Iran on his watch to obtain a nuclear weapon, and I think if that involves, and frankly, I think as unpopular as it is in Iraq, George, I think there's a lot of people in this country who also concur with Bush that Iran is really the danger in the region. It never was Iraq, and they do have to they're going to have to deal with Ahmadinejad on this issue. They cannot allow this country, who've already stated, that they are going to, they'd like to wipe Israel off the map to develop a nuclear bomb.
And us, too.
Yeah, and us, too. And, other allies in the region.
Well, let's see, and that's the problem. I think had Ahmadinejad kept his mouth quiet, he might have had a little more support from people if he continued to have said, look, all we want this for domestic reasons,
right.
We want this for power and energy, but instead he's talking about destroying everybody. I mean, what are you going to believe?
Look, the guy hosted a Holocaust denial conference. He is basically been spewing this kind of hateful rhetoric out and making threats against other nations. And here's a guy that wants to enrich uranium. I don't think so. And, yes, had he kept the diplomacy a lot more quiet, had they played their cards close to the vest, Iran, there wouldn't be quite as much of an uproar over the enrichment activities that are going on, because nobody really trusts him and the current regime that's in power.
Russians are saying that if we put a anti-missile defense system in some of the Eastern European countries, they're going to aim their missiles at those countries. They're getting tough again.
Well, I think, when you look at Putin, who has really dismantled the free press in Russia and really gone back to the old Soviet-style control.
Has.
I mean, we're talking about under Bush's watch. I mean, and I think this is really, Bush has talked about he looked in Putin's eyes and he saw a good man, but really what he was seeing was really a facade of a very evil individual that he has really systematically taken all of the reforms under Boris Yeltsin and Gorbachev, and he's really dismantled them. You look at the Russians, what they did to Vladimir Khodorkovsky, and basically putting him in a prison in Siberia for controlling Yukos, their major oil company, and went from eating beluga caviar to drinking fish soup.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
No, it's
Just
true.
a few more minutes to go here. I want to get your reaction. You have a column on your website, online, columnist.com, about Brittany's breakdown, and you're one of the few people to really be sympathetic to this situation. She does need help, doesn't she?
Oh, it's a desperate cry for help, and I think there's so many really brilliant and geniuses out there who are creative people who have a bipolar disorder and go untreated, and they wind up killing themselves, like Anna Nicole Smith wound up doing inadvertently. Of course, we don't know really what the cause of death, but right. I think most people suspect that it was somehow either an inadvertent or some kind of drug overdose or of that kind of nature. But I think the same thing could be true. When somebody starts, chopping off their hair, I mean, it's definitely a cry. It's one step removed, basically, from slashing or cutting themselves. And I think in her particular case, it's unfortunate because these people are, the tabloids really play up the kind of glitz and glamour connected with the rich and famous, and I think in her case it's another tragedy of an undiagnosed bipolar disorder that has really gone untreated. And hopefully, in this rehab, if she really stays with it, then somebody will get her on the right medications and she can go back and resume her career.
Well, let's hope so, because she's doing all this right before a custody battle for her two baby sons.
Well, and she has, and when you've got somebody binge drinking and out, running around in the party scene, it doesn't really look good to a judge as to how responsible the parent is, and I think that even though that she's got some people testifying what a wonderful mother she is, I think the facts speak for themselves as far as the way she's running around. It doesn't speak well for her parenting skills. Johns,
thanks again so much, and we're going to sit back and see what happens on this Iranian situation. But I'm predicting in less than 2 months something will happen.
Yeah, I'm that's my read also. That I think that the U.S. is going to take some kind of action.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Appreciate it. John Curtis, onlinecolumnist.com. If you want to go up to his website, right there at the bottom, there's a section icon that says articles. You can click that. When we come back, we'll have open lines. Those of you listening to us on KVI in Seattle, if you want to check in with us and tell me about this dust that's out there, what is it? Here are the phone numbers. West of the Rockies, 800-618-8255. East of the Rockies, 800-825-5033. First-time caller line is 818-501-4721, and the wild card line, ready to roll at 818-501-4109. I'm George Norrie. This is Coast to Coast AM. Circle the calendar. Friday, March 2nd, I'll be in Houston at the Verizon Wireless Theater for an event, and we'll be doing Coast to Coast from our affiliate. Go to ktrh.com and get all the information on that event. And going out. By the way, if those of you want to bring copies of Worker in the Light, because they are not going to be sold at the event, but if you want to bring them, I will sign them for you, so don't worry about that. But go to ktrh.com and then click on the information on tickets. And if you can make it out there Friday, March 2nd, it would be great to see you. Okay, welcome now to the open line portion of the program. Let's go to our wild card line. You're on the air with us. Hi there. Where are you calling from?
You speaking to me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm Tommy from Seattle, and I didn't see any dust. I live in the south end of Seattle near SeaTac Airport, but it's entirely possible that the jet stream picked up dust from the Gobi Desert or eastern China and dropped it over in Seattle.
From eastern China?
Well, sure. The Japanese were using balloon bombs during World War II, so it's entirely possible that the dust would come over here from there.
Okay, now have you heard anything about the dust before this program?
Only that it had some mystery to it, and that was about it.
Okay, I'd like to get to the bottom of it. Hey, thanks. Appreciate your call. First-time caller line, welcome to the program. Hi there.
Hiya, George. Frank from Newark, New Jersey.
Sure.
Yes, I was reading something by Dr. Raymond J. Moody where his new work is an introduction to a book called Life on Other Planets that was written in 1758 and by Emanuel Swedenborg.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's just very profound that this Swedenborg, who was a scientist, is still very relevant, as far as just new books coming out all the time. And I had a near-death experience myself, and the only person that, comes close to explaining it or describing it was Swedenborg. So I just thought that it would be interesting if Dr. Moody can talk about that. And
Raymond,
I don't understand how someone so brilliant as Swedenborg just manages to travel under radar where nobody really recognizes all the discoveries both in anatomy, cosmology.
He was a genius. If he lived in this era, the guy would be a giant.
Yeah.
But, that happens with a lot of people. Not a lot of people know about Tesla. We talk about him, and coast-to-coast listeners know about him. But believe it or not, there aren't a lot of people. You go outside and just go up to someone and say, hey, do you know Tesla? Tell us about him. Not a lot of people would know about him. A lot of great minds just have not gotten the kind of notoriety that they deserve. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with us. Hi there.
Hi, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
We've spoke a couple times before, and I'm going to be real quick about this. But first, I just want to ask you a quick question. The emergency public broadcasting system, you're familiar with that?
Yeah, sure am.
Okay. Well, I just heard something the other day I thought was kind of cute. Life is a test. It's only a test. If this had been your real life, you would have been given better instructions. But my question was, I heard something on there about a God code in DNA, and I was wondering if there was any more information on that on one of your old shows.
Oh, we've got a whole bunch of them. Just go search. Do you have a computer?
Yep.
Just go to the website, and up there in the search section, just type in the God code.
Okay.
And you'll get
I was curious if anybody had ever tried using any of those Bible code programs on any of the Gnostic texts and see if it works on those.
I'm not sure. That's interesting. But definitely go to the coasttocoastam.com website and do that. There's a great search engine we have there now. West of the Rockies, welcome to the program. You're on the air. Hi there.
Hi. I wanted to tell you about my Ouija board story.
Oh, sure. What happened?
Years ago, when I married my ex-wife, we got one for a wedding present. And a number of months later, we were planning on moving.
Well, now, wait a minute. Somebody got you that for a wedding present?
Yes. It was something that we just, kind of played with a little bit and cast aside into the... It was, kind of clutter. We threw it out when we were getting ready to move. And sometime later, we found it, minus the box. Everything was there, minus the box. and we had both of us really couldn't say which one we were accusing each other of keeping it, and we moved at least 3 more times and discarded it each time, and it kept reappearing in our lives.
Where did you discard it?
In the garbage.
And it would just show up?
Yes, and this would be just before we were moving, and we would change residence to a different town, and it would appear in our possessions again.
Oh, you'd open up a box, for example, and it would be in there?
Months later, usually.
The Ouija board that never wanted to leave.
Well, it has left my life. We've been apart for 20 years, and I haven't seen it since.
Maybe it's following her.
I hope so.
All right. What a thing to say. First-time caller line, you're on the air with us. Hi there. Where are you calling from?
I'm from Houston, Texas.
Well, I will be there soon. How are you?
Just fine, and this is Derek.
Okay, Derek.
First-time caller. I wanted to comment and agree with some of your earlier callers and interviewers. I do believe that we will have a conflict with Iran in the very near future, but I think it's important that we observe Vladimir Putin, because I think he's going to play a very no matter what the world scene is, Russia is always going to be there, I believe. And from the first time I ever saw a picture of that man on the front of a magazine, I just felt very, pure evil, a lot of negativity about him. And I think if and when we do begin conflict with Iran, I think he will side with Iran against the U.S.
Oh, there's no question about that. They are helping to build one of their nuclear facilities, and they're a little upset because they claim they haven't been paid yet by the Iranians the money they believe is due. But I agree with you about Putin. I don't think he is to be trusted. He has got a look of evil in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And
very much so.
You know what? They are capable of pulling something. And,
definitely. They have far too much power to be removed from the equation.
Yes, absolutely. Very perceptive.
So.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate you being on the program. Next up, we'll go to our wild card line. It is your turn. Hi there. Good morning.
Yeah, George.
Yes, sir. Take it away.
Hey, George, this is Mike. I'm a truck driver out here in the state of Texas.
Well, welcome to the show, Mike.
Okay, I tried to call you when you had the numbers lady on, and I wanted to call and ask you the significance of 666 and how it pertains to your daily life and everything. Because I had a day where everything that popped up contained a 6. Like my meal started out was $6.66. I was pulled over by a state patrolman at the 66-mile marker at 6:26. His badge number was 6676. I was given a fix-it ticket to fix the trailer.
Yeah.
Because I had some problems on the trailer, and the bill come up to $626.66. It was a pretty weird day, and I wanted to call and see what you thought about it and what the significance of it would have been.
I think you're the devil, Michael.
Oh, God, I hope not.
No. Well, I got to tell you, it's the sign of the beast, right?
Well, I agree there, but no, I know I'm not. At least I hope to God I'm not.
There is a priest. His name is DeJesus, and he claims that he has the number 666 on him. I'm trying to have our producers find him because he doesn't live in this country. He says he is God, and he thinks 666 is something good. I don't know. That's kind of weird that you see this all the time. You sound like a great guy. I don't think there's anything evil about you, but I don't know why that number pops up around you all the time.
I don't either. That's why I wanted to. Like I said, I tried to call when you had the numbers lady on because I sure would have been interested in how she thought about it and everything.
Yeah, we got to get her take on that.
Okay,
all right.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you being on the program. West of the Rockies. Hello there.
Hello, George.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, this is Dan in Mission, British Columbia.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm great. I've been listening to the program for about a year now, and there's been a lot of talk about Thunderbirds. And I'm originally...
In Thunderbirds, to people who don't know, we're not talking about the car. We're talking about huge birds.
Exactly. I'm sorry, George. I'm not much of a car buff. So,
that's okay.
Anyway, I'm originally from Kenora, Ontario, and that's on a large lake called Lake of the Woods. And there's an island down in an area called Sabaskong Bay, and it's a small, tiny... I've never been there, by the way, but I've just heard about this, and it's in old explorer guides. And in the center of this island is a big nest, like a ring of boulders. And apparently it's been there for as long as anyone can remember.
How big is the nest?
Again, it's not in any of the newer... This isn't described in any of the newer explorer guides, but it says that it's a very small island. So I would imagine maybe a person could probably lay spread out in it. Maybe it's not huge, but
well, that's a pretty good sized nest, though. If it was built by birds,
exactly. And I used to work on at a casino on a native reserve back there, and I got to know quite a few people there. And anyone you asked, they would tell you either they've seen something like that, or their grandparents have talked about it. And it's something that's been passed down in their family through generation. These stories about these huge birds, and apparently Lake of the Woods, which has over 14,000 islands on it, was a popular place for these birds to nest when they were coming from either from way up north or wherever they were coming from.
And I believe that these birds still exist.
I do too. I mean, I haven't seen one myself, but actually, I was talking to my brother and on the phone last week, and he was telling me that a native fellow he works with saw these birds on the side of the road when they were coming back from work one night, and he just said that the height of them was like a five and it was almost like the height of a man that was about 5.5 feet high or something like that, standing, but it was a bird. I mean, and this was standing. I mean, I don't know.
You've heard the story of Mothman, right?
Yeah, I'd like to see the movie. I've heard the story.
Yeah,
but...
well, I think it could be a huge bird. And if that thing is standing, people would think that it's some ghoulish human with wings.
Yeah, exactly. And well, yeah, I mean, it's you'd think that, because you wouldn't think that a bird would be that tall. And I mean, I can't imagine what would go through my mind if I saw something that big, that had wings on it.
I tell you what, you run, because that bird has been known to swoop down and pick up small animals. There was a case, I believe it was in Illinois, where it swooped down and picked up a little kid, and his mother came out and it smacked the thing with a broom, and the bird dropped the little kid. He wasn't up too high. I mean, unbelievable story, and his jacket ripped. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi there.
Good day. Good evening, I should say.
Hi.
Yeah, I was trying to have your call screener just take a look at the computer so you could tell you without saying it myself, but because I don't remember the name of the article or the name of the paper that it was in. But they were talking about the strange dust over the Washington area. It wasn't just Seattle, but it was like surrounding areas.
All over the place,
certain areas. But they had talked about how the first article was about how it was just this mysterious dust, and then it had a link to another article, and it talked about how the mysterious dust, somebody ended up scooping it up and made or analyzed it, and they said that it was, I believe, spruce and juniper, some pollen.
Pollen?
Yeah.
That much pollen?
Yeah, they were saying that every, once in a great while, conditions are just right to be able to produce all this, and that certain pollens don't have as bad of a allergic reaction to certain people.
How weird.
Because, but like I said,
we're talking about an inch thick, right?
Yeah, they were showing like a big pile of it in one picture, and like some of the chunks. I mean, it to me almost looked like certain gunpowders or fireworks type, material.
Well, where would it come from? The trees in the forests out there?
Yeah, that's basically what the other article was stating, is that it was in that area that the conditions were just right, and that the heat was good enough, and that it built up and spread it around.
How bizarre.
But like I said, I found that off of Alex Jones's website, Prison Planet.
All right.
And that was in the last 4 days, because it was like a day or two after that first caller that made a mention about it.
All right, very good. Thanks. Appreciate that. Pollen, huh? Wildcard line, you're on the air with us. Hi there.
Hello, George.
Yeah.
Hi, David from Alien Ship. How are you?
Fine, David. How are you?
Fine, thanks. I was looking for you at the expo. I missed you, but I catch Sean Morton, and we were talking about Pole Shift of 2012.
It's happening, Dave.
And I want to send all good energies to all people and humanity at this moment to focus and send love and positive energy towards this moment at the 2012. As we approach, the pressure on the news and events gets worse and worse. But as we meditate and pray and put all our energies together to offset and make this event much more happy for everybody, for ascension, for a good side, not the evil side, but the positive side. That's a good message for everybody, and you can see it all on the website we have, and join our group Alien Shift, and raise the consciousness of the humanity.
Well, we sure need that, David. We sure need that. He sounds a little like Dr. Louis Turry, doesn't he? Let's go to our next wild card line. Welcome to the program. Hi there.
Hey, George. I wanted to talk to you about something on the lighter side. I mean, so many things you talk about on this show are so serious, but my wife and I normally, every Friday night, we cook up a batch of George Nori nachos.
And what are George Nori nachos?
Well, I wanted to pass this on to all the coast-to-coast listeners because I'm sure they get pretty hungry staying up all night listening to this show. What you do is you get a bag of blue corn chips and then 2 tomatoes, and you chop them up, a can of black olives, chop them up, and then a green pepper or red pepper, chop them up, and you pour all this on top of the blue corn chips. And then you take an onion, chop it up, put that on top, and then 1 can of black beans drained, and you get the oven going at broil at about 350 degrees, and then you take your spices out. You get Mexican seasoning, cumin, and paprika, just a dash, some red pepper, and a little cilantro on top. And you pop it in there, and you just kind of keep an eye on it until it melts down, and there you go.
I'm waiting for the punchline here. There isn't any, is there?
No, that's it.
And are they pretty good?
Oh, they're great. They're great, and whatever's left over, my son will eat them in the morning.
All right, and you listen to our Friday night open lines, I guess, when you do that. All right, that's pretty good. We get to send that in. We were working on a cookbook. Maybe we'll put that in as one of the recipes. You never know. Let's go to our next wild card line. You got about a minute. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Oh, heavens. Good evening, Mr. Nori. I'm Jason calling from Houston.
Hey, Jason.
I look forward to your show here on the 2nd.
Thanks.
I was wanting to find out. I am a part of a organization called fairtax.org, and wanted to find out if there was any likelihood if you've ever looked into...
Oh, yeah. Isn't it Neil Bortz is part of that, isn't he?
Yeah, he's probably one of the biggest proponents when it comes to radio personalities, wherever that's really helps us out.
I was with him in Austin, Texas, not too long ago, and we were talking about this. We'll probably do a few shows on fair tax as we get close to tax day.
I look forward to doing that.
It's time for them to revamp the tax code, isn't it?
We've huge. We have more co-sponsors now just in the past month.
What do you propose? A use tax or just a flat tax?
It's not a VAT. It's not a flat. Basically, we eliminate. And with all due respect, Mr. Nori, I'm not a spokesperson.
I understand.
To do this. In fact, I'm the guy who...
You're just giving me a highlight.
Yeah, we basically eliminate all federal taxes across the entire everything. Estate taxes.
Wow. You know what?
Income,
everything. We'd all save a lot of money if we could do that. But no, we will be doing some programs on it. That affects every American who works. I'm George Nori. We'll be back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. James Gardner, our special guest, The Intelligent Universe. Our friend Seth Shostak writes of The Intelligent Universe. Once again, James Gardner takes on the biggest of themes, the function and future of the universe. Could it be that life, a humble bit of dirty chemistry on a tiny planet, is actually the man behind the curtain, pulling the levers that will actually guide the future of an entire cosmos? This book dares to tread on a landscape that few other writers have yet imagined. Provocative and prescient. Dr. Seth Shostak. In a moment, James Gardner joins us as we talk about the intelligent universe. James Gardner is an accomplished science essayist whose articles on cosmology and evolution have been published in prestigious scientific journals. He's a former U.S. Supreme Court law clerk and a former Oregon state senator. James is also the author of Biocosm. He's been on Coast to Coast before. The New Scientific Theory of Evolution. Intelligent Life is the Architect of the Universe and the Intelligent Universe. AIET and the Emerging Mind of the Cosmos. James claims that our universe was deliberately designed by a super intelligent being or beings in a prior cosmic cycle to be life-friendly. He's a special guest tonight on Coast to Coast. James, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you, sir. Very well.
You always do a wonderful job when you put together your thoughts into a book form.
Well, thank you so much.
A lot of people don't know that you are a lawyer, not
That's
a scientist,
correct.
Right?
That is correct.
How did a lawyer get interested in the cosmos?
Well, it's a question of following the chain of evidence, I guess you might say. And what my role is as a lawyer and as a bit of a scientific amateur is not to really serve as an experimentalist or a number cruncher, but rather kind of a synthesizer, kind of a map maker, putting together a host of ideas from a variety of disciplines and seeing how they all fit together.
Subtitle of the book is AIET and the Emerging Mind of the Cosmos. What does that mean?
Well, AI and ET are the means by which the universe becomes intelligent. And let me just say what I mean by an intelligent universe. It means, to paraphrase astrophysicist Paul Davies, that the laws of the universe are cunningly contrived to coax life and intelligence into being against the raw odds. It means that life and intelligence are cosmic imperatives. And it means that the laws of physics have somehow almost miraculously engineered their own comprehension through the medium of our human minds.
James, there's one picture in the book of the Cone Nebula where stars are being born in it.
Yes.
And it is absolutely startling. I've seen the picture before, but this is a great picture. It's a big one in your book. And when I saw that, to me it looked like a nest with eggs in it. And I just couldn't stop but wonder, the universe could very much be alive as well.
I believe, in fact, that the universe is in the process of coming to life, and it has already accomplished that feat in at least one corner of the cosmos. That's our world, and it's done it through the birth of life here on planet Earth. And I firmly believe that this is not the only venue where that has occurred.
You know, when we talk tonight about the intelligent universe and how you believe it was created and what it all means, a lot of people, I think, will perk up when they hear some of these thoughts about this. You know, the older I get, and I don't know if it's the same with you, Jim, but the older I get, the more fascinated I am with trying to get these answers.
It's absolutely astonishing when you look at the details of the construction of the universe and you see how improbably and fine-tuned it is, how precisely engineered it is to be able to create life and intelligence.
You know, and without being too biblical here, but the Bible itself is almost like a science book when you look at it. And a lot of it depends on the interpretation. But when you look at that and compare it to your book, The Intelligent Universe, it is uncanny, even though we're using different verbiage here, the similarities.
Well, it's very. I have a discussion in my new book, The Intelligent Universe, about the role that religion played as a kind of entity that led to modern science. People often think that science and religion are antagonistic or that they're at war with one another, but in fact, there would be no such thing as modern science were it not for the progress that religion achieved in convincing people that there existed a rational natural order.
Tell me a little bit of your involvement. Again, a Portland, Oregon lawyer, not a scientist, getting involved in issues of cosmology.
Well, my pathway toward cosmology really came through the terrain of complexity theory. I began writing about that for the journal Complexity, which is affiliated with the Santa Fe Institute, and then it suddenly struck me that perhaps that theory might hold the key toward explaining what was perhaps the greatest mystery in all of science, which is why the universe is so life-friendly against all odds. And I simply became fixated on that issue and against the odds, I guess you would say, sort of fought my way through the process of peer review to get published in scientific journals with what turned out to be a very speculative but I hope plausible explanation.
What do other scientists say about some of your theories?
You know, it really varies. I have gotten very good reception from some of the most far-sighted and thoughtful physicists and cosmologists, the Astronomer Royal of the United Kingdom, Martin Rees, Paul Davies, and of course Seth Shostak, as you mentioned. Others, perhaps more of the traditionalists, have commented that the ideas are impermissibly speculative, and they've even hurled the ultimate insult at me that scientists hurl. They called it metaphysics.
Well, let me tell you, Seth believes in extraterrestrial life, obviously, or he wouldn't be doing what he does for a living. He doesn't believe we've been visited, but he believes that there is intelligent life out there. Are you a believer, too, that there could very well be other forms of life like ours there?
Yes, in fact, it's one of the predictions of what I call my selfish biocosm hypothesis, that, in fact, extraterrestrial life exists and that it has a tendency to develop into intelligent extraterrestrial life. I think it's basically preposterous to assume that the miracle of life's origin occurred only once and only on a basically out-of-the-way planet in an obscure galaxy and nowhere else. I think that's simply preposterous.
Not quite the Drake equation, but we'll call it the Gardner equation.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, I think that the seed of life is the same throughout the universe.
I totally agree, and I think it's written into the laws and constants of physics like a kind of real-life Da Vinci Code, a kind of hidden cosmic DNA.
I think so, too. And, you know, if life has this similarity to it, I would guess that other evolved beings might look pretty close to us.
That's a very interesting question. And there's a biologist, Simon Conway Morris, in Cambridge, who has come to pretty much that same conclusion. The real question is how far the process of evolution will lead life to evolve, both here on Earth and elsewhere.
Because we don't know what we're going to look like 2,000 years from now.
And we don't know whether or not our progeny, our successors, are going to be primarily intelligent machines or some hybrid of humans and machines or biological entities.
James, are you a believer that there could be more than one universe, that there are multiverses?
I believe that there is a process of cosmic duplication, if you will, and the technical term for it among scientists is eternal chaotic inflation. And what it means is that there's more than one Big Bang. They kind of go off like firecrackers on a crazy 4th of July constantly. We don't observe them because they're essentially creating new domains of existence, new universes. But I do believe that.
You know, 20, 30 years ago, if you were in school and you broached the subject that there'd be multiverses, the professor or teacher would say, "No way."
Yeah, isn't it funny how what was yesterday's crazy idea is today's accepted theory?
It really is. I'm baffled sometimes by time and space. If there are multi-universes, where are they? I mean, are they stuck like bubbles to each other?
They could be, or they could simply have been like buds that essentially have enclosed themselves and shut themselves off. So they're literally completely unobservable from our cosmos.
I want to do almost like a flashback with you tonight, James. I want you to tell us why you believe the universe is indeed intelligent.
Well, I came to this conclusion because I was trying to figure out what might be a heredity mechanism that would enable a baby universe to share the characteristics of its parent. And we talked a little bit about that theory of eternal inflation where there's not just one Big Bang, but tons of them going off all the time. And the only mechanism that I could come up with that could essentially serve as think of it as a kind of cosmic reproductive organ, if you will, was highly advanced intelligence that could transmit the traits of the mother to the children.
See, when I think of intelligence, I think of a human being that, we're out here and we've got a brain that functions and we deal with this subconscious mind and that we tap into the unknown sometimes. The intelligence that you're talking about, where is it? I mean, is it in the stars? Is it in dark energy, dark matter? Where is it?
Well, it's emerging, and it's emerging through us and through our artifacts, which are our computers, and the code for its emergence, the DNA that essentially prescribes its growth and development, is embedded in the laws and constants of physics, which are very, very finely tuned to be life-friendly, finely tuned with exquisite precision.
Is it? I mean, do you believe in a godlike entity?
I believe that an entity or entities, as you put it in your introduction, did mediate the creation, the birth of the cosmos that we inhabit. I believe as well that it was an entity that we would regard as superhuman, but not supernatural.
Does it have shape?
I think that it has a physical embodiment, whether it has what we would think of as a shape or whether it's something that we would analogize to for instance, a black hole or a super dense computational core. That's where my ability to speculate ends.
So when Dorothy and the Scarecrow and the Lion and the Tin Man all made it to the Wizard of Oz,
yeah,
and on the outside they were looking at this Oz-like being,
mm-hmm.
and they just oh my gosh! But then they found out that it was just a little old man with a little tiny machine behind the curtain.
Yep.
And could it be like that?
Well, anything is possible, but I think it's fair to say, and what I've written about in some of my papers is that to accomplish the feat of transmitting our life-friendly cosmic code, our set of physical parameters, physical constants, to a successor universe would require about as sophisticated a set of intellectual tools as you can imagine. So I think it's fair to say that you would have to have evolution taken to its ultimate point to achieve that capability.
Where do angels fit in your theory?
I was hoping you would ask me that question because I am a firm believer in angels since I happen to be married to one. But the angels that I believe in are solely earth angels, like my dear wife Linda.
So it's not like Nicolas Cage in City of Angels.
No, I don't think so.
But what about fallen angels and entities like that? Something happened.
Well, it's interesting, but where I am, I guess. I'm a person who is trying to push the frontiers of physical science and speculative physical science, but just about as far as it can be pushed. But I'm not a person who is terribly personally religious or spiritual.
Okay.
But what is interesting is that I think my vision, my physical scenario, brings up a lot of thoughts that have traditionally been in the province of religion, like the ability to create a universe. That's often considered to be the hallmark of a deity.
See, this is what's so confusing, though, because so many people will agree that if there is intelligent design by all this, it is what created, let's say, this universe. So let's not even worry about the multiverses right now. So it creates this universe. Where was it before the creation of the universe? That's what we have a difficult time trying to comprehend.
It's the question that I get most often, and it's really the most challenging for me. And I have a chapter in my new book where I suggest a kind of outlandish possibility, even for me, and it is that it's possible that there is something called a closed time-like curve in which time essentially loops around, rather than a linear line from past to future. The past is really connected to the future, and the future can exert a causal effect on the past, so that, in effect, the future state of our cosmos could actually influence its past. It's a counterintuitive concept, tough to get your mind around, but it's a concept that really came out of Einstein's theories.
Do you think that if Einstein were alive today and he had the computer at his beck and call, that he would change some of his theories?
You know, that's a really interesting question. I think he would find that some of his theories, ironically, that he dismissed himself, have in fact been validated by observational evidence. He had, for instance, a theory that there was some kind of a anti-gravity force in the cosmos, and when the discoveries were made about the Big Bang, he basically X'd it out of his equations, called it the biggest mistake of his career. And you know what? Lo and behold, we've discovered dark energy, which in fact is a form of anti-gravity. And so on that score, Einstein may have turned out to be correct. He just didn't have the sophisticated observational tools we now have.
You know, when we launched Pioneer 10 many years ago, and you make reference to it in the Intelligent Universe, you know, we had a disk there that basically was an instruction sheet on mankind for any extraterrestrials that might obtain that. Some people were a little upset about it because they thought that who knows who would get it. And, you know, it would be a roadmap back to us. It could be a disaster.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be interesting, though, one day, James, if that was really picked up by something?
That would be just absolutely fascinating. Or if our radio signals were picked up, which is another possibility. And, you know, you can't discount that possibility at all. Nor can you discount the possibility, the project that Seth Shostak works on, of intercepting signals that might have emanated either deliberately or accidentally from an alien system.
I can't wait till they go online with that Paul Allen array of radio telescopes.
Absolutely.
Because who knows, then they're going to be able to hear something, I would hope. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment. James Gardner, our special guest. His website is linked up at coasttocoastam.com. We're talking about his latest work, The Intelligent Universe. I'm George Norrie, back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Somewhere out there in the far reaches of the universe, where you can still get the 2 free Father Malachi Martin CDs when you subscribe to the After Dark newsletter. This will come to an end soon, so take advantage of it. These are collector items. They will not be available anytime anymore once it is done. Call 1-888-727-5505. That's 1-888-727-5505, or you can simply go online at coasttocoastam.com. James, paint us a picture for us with this entity or entities that create the intelligent universe. You know, if we're kind of eavesdropping in on them, what's going on at this moment when they're creating the universe?
At this moment, we're the leading edge of that process of change. We are the creatures that are building the machines, the super intelligent computers that will essentially be the next step in the evolutionary process. We're, in effect, bringing the cosmos to life. We are transforming it into a vast cosmic mind. Think of it as building a computer as big and as powerful as the laws of physics will allow. I believe that that's literally what we're in the process of doing.
Now, during this evolutionary stage, this creation stage, how did they know how to fit all the pieces of the puzzle? I mean, this universe it just seems to have a pattern to it and a system. You know, you look at just our solar system, everything seems to work. Everything is in place.
The amazing thing, though, is that, you know, that wonderful phrase with which Darwin concludes the origin of species, from so simple a beginning. The truly amazing thing is that all of this complexity and diversity and intricate order can unfold from a very simple initial program which consists of the laws and constants of physics. And somehow the very process of emergence and evolution feeds back into itself to essentially modulate its own emergence. So we can, out of very, very simple beginnings, you can create a very complex entity, and that's what's going on. And we're the leading edge of that right now. Humanity is. Though I don't believe that we're going to be in the catbird seat for too much longer. I think that we're going to create essentially our own successors in the form of hyper intelligent machines.
And you think these machines will do what?
Well, I think they will continue. They'll be the next generation of. We talked about Pioneer spacecraft.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be the next generation of space exploration vehicles. Perhaps be capable of terraforming a planet like Mars or Venus. And certainly be capable of feats like mining the asteroid belt, but really, in a deeper sense, domesticating what amounts to raw nature and bending it to the purposes of intelligence.
You think, James, if we ran into other extraterrestrial beings and we could communicate with them, do you think they would have the answers to the universe?
You know, I don't think they'd have really any truly deeper answers than we're likely to come to on our own. They could well be at a more advanced stage of evolution, and they could also well be primarily mechanical or non-biological. That's one of the theories that, for instance, the chief historian at NASA, Stephen J. Dick, has put forward, that we're likely to live in what is predominantly a non-biological universe, that we're a sort of a passing phase in that transition to intelligent machines.
Machines that could be made with everyday parts, I assume.
Or certainly that would be made with the everyday elements of the universe, perhaps undoubtedly more sophisticated, engineered at the nanoscale or below that. Perhaps even at the level of subatomic particles.
There are two favorite lines in one of my favorite movies, Contact. Did you remember seeing that movie?
I love that movie.
And one was, of course, that we as humans are capable of wonderful dreams or horrible nightmares, basically.
Yes, indeed.
But the other great line was when she asked the alien who looked like her father,
right?
Did you build this machine, the machine that apparently she was in, to get to where she was? And he said, no, we didn't build it. It was handed down to us.
Yes.
And it was handed down to them, and it went on and on and on. It kind of reminds me of all of this.
Well, that's an interesting thought because, in a sense, what I call the cosmic code, which is the collection of these very oddly life-friendly physical laws and constants that prevail in our universe, that in effect is our cosmic DNA that was handed down to us by whatever cosmos preceded us, and it's really very similar to that thought that was expressed in Contact.
You say that there are extraterrestrial entities among us now. We just don't notice. Explain that.
Yes, that's a statement that I actually have in my book, and the extraterrestrial entities that I'll describe what I think their capabilities are.
All right.
And I think they're everywhere. They're in the food we eat, the air we breathe. They're inside our bodies. They've made an incredible journey from the venue of their birth to reach Earth. They have made an epic migration, millions of light years, that dwarfs the fictional voyages of the Enterprise. And you know what they are?
Is it bacteria?
No. What they are the atoms that combine to form the molecules from which our bodies are built. And without their special powers and characteristics, we could not exist. The really miraculous thing is that they were hammered into existence in the forges of giant supernova explosions, in some cases in processes that are incredibly delicate and improbable, just absolutely finely tuned. But without that fine tuning that, for instance, produces the element carbon, and without the voyage that carbon has made from the venue of its birth on some distant supernova to our Earth, we could never exist.
And you know we're made with stardust.
We are indeed. We are stardust.
When you stop to think of it for a moment, that this matter of ours, just even though at death it, basically disintegrates, but it becomes more of stardust.
It does indeed. It's the circle of life, and it's the circle of life. The truly amazing thing is that the story of life and the story of evolution didn't begin on planet Earth. It requires an incredibly old and vast cosmos for even one species of tiny bacteria to exist, because the stars have to go through these successions, these generations of explosion and then recouping and refusing to create the elements that are essential for life. So the true story of our evolution, of our history, extends literally back to the first moments of the Big Bang.
Why, when you look at this incredible universe, even on a dark, star-filled night, and you can see the wonders of this universe and the beauty of it, why is it that human beings who are part of this wonderful universe are so full of hatred and bitterness and evil? How could that occur when you have so much beauty out there?
It's a great mystery, isn't it?
It sure is.
And I'm often asked that question, a question like that, because I believe that the vision that I offer in the intelligent universe is profoundly optimistic. It's optimistic about the capability of life and intelligence, and what I like, the thought I like to express in connection with that is sort of echoes something that Martin Luther King once said. He said, "The arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice." And I would add that the long arc of the universe also bends toward progress, both technological and cultural, toward cooperation despite the scourge of warfare that continues to afflict us, toward interdependence, and toward a profound respect for all life and intelligence. I honestly believe that's a deeper trend than the troubles that seem to confront and overwhelm us right now.
So I think if you look at 10 people, I think 8 of them are probably nice, wonderful people. I think 2 of them are probably evil.
Yep.
And I think there's something wrong with these people, James. I think that they may be genetically altered. They may be manipulated. There's something wrong with them. It's almost as if that this planet was used as a dumping ground or an experiment that went awry. I mean, I've just never seen anything where people just try to annihilate everybody else.
Well, I think there was a famous statement that without a vision, the people will perish. I think for those 8 of the 10, what is really important is to remember those words of really Martin Luther King, that the arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice, and to take some heart and comfort in the fact that despite all of the troubles we have seen, we have made progress and continue to make progress.
We seem, since the beginning of time, to have looked at the heavens for some answers, and we're not stopping yet. Why is it that we always seem to look up for those?
Well, it's the greatest of all mysteries, and as I say in my book that that there's a time machine that's clearly visible right outside your front door. It has an unearthly beauty, an ineffable grandeur and ingenuity of construction. It's not of human origin. The time machine that I'm talking about is the universe itself. And what we're looking at when we look up at the nighttime sky, we're looking not at the universe as it exists today, but as a kind of cinematic image as it existed years ago, and in the case of the galaxy Andromeda, millions of years ago. So one of the reasons I think that I like to think that we look up and out is because in some deep sense we know we're looking back at our past.
And what do you mean by scientists have offered two bleak answers, fire or ice?
Well, they said that scientists have said that how might the universe end?
Yeah.
And one idea is fire. It recontracts in a kind of big bang in reverse called a big crunch, and that everything would be extinguished in a kind of raging inferno, or it might end in ice, which would be a ceaseless expansion of the fabric of space-time.
Everything just burns out.
Everything just kind of dilutes and cools, and the whole project simply fades into endless oblivion. But I suggest a third possibility, that the universe might end in intelligent life. Not life as we know it, but life that has acquired the capability to reshape and remold the cosmos as a whole, just like life on Earth has acquired the ability to shape the land, the sea, and the atmosphere.
Do you address, when you talk about the universe, what happens to us when we cease to exist physically, at least in this life?
I don't. I really don't in this book, but I can offer the thought that, and again, as you know, I'm not really a religious person, but what I do believe is that some essence of our spirit, of our thought, of our contribution, of our love and our cogitation is woven into the evolving culture, the matrix of which we are a part, and which does have a persistence into the indefinite future.
Are you baffled by anything?
I'm baffled by the sheer grandeur of the process and the fact that the universe could actually be, which I believe it is, an emerging life form. That just it stuns me with the grandeur of that possibility simply stuns me.
Well, then you also have to believe that the Earth itself is a living life form, as I do.
Yes, the Gaia hypothesis.
Yes.
And as Seth Shostak said in his introduction to my first book, Biocosm, what I've really tried to do is to take the Gaia hypothesis to its ultimate extension, and to say that its furthest conceivable magnitude, and to suggest that life and intelligence may actually have the capability to mold the structure and future of the cosmos itself.
I would love to sit in a room and hear you and Seth just in a little conversation.
Well, he's a dear friend and has had a profound influence on my thinking over the years.
I hope he's successful in finding his answers.
Don't we all hope that?
I mean, what would you do if they say one day, we have found intelligent life, we've picked up intelligent signals, we know they're out there?
I would say, well, thank you for that news, because that's what my hypothesis predicts.
That's true.
I'd be very happy and feel vindicated.
Do you think that there's going to be a tremendous end to this, or will it be a catastrophe when it's all said and done?
That's an interesting idea, and one of the topics I explore in my book is what might be the impact, for instance, on religion of the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence. Mm-hmm. And some people have suggested that it will have it'll be the death knell of religion. I really don't think that's the case. I think that it will it will certainly have an effect. It will suggest that life and intelligence are not confined to this earth, but it will, I think, lead to some thinking and cultural evolution that in the field of religion that'll be very, very interesting.
Hollywood has always depicted extraterrestrials when they come here. They always say, "Take me to your leader."
Right.
You know, the first thing they would probably say to us, James,
What's that?
It would be, "Do you know who made us?"
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's a profound question, isn't it?
It sure is. It sure is. It is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
You know, my mother always used to say, "Always was, always will be." That was her answer. I mean, whenever I asked her that question, that's what she would always say. And she may be very well right on the button on that.
Well, it's possible. And this notion, I think it is pretty clear by now that in some sense we live in a from the Big Bang to this moment and on into the future, we live in a universe that is changing, evolving, developing. But if I'm correct, and that we also have a process that sort of transcends that is a process whereby new universes are being born, and their birth is being essentially mediated by advanced intelligence, that process itself may well be eternal.
How many intelligent planets do you think there are?
Or intelligent universes? I think that if you look at on the planet side, you look at the Drake equation in our galaxy. You could easily assume something on the order of 100,000, maybe more, maybe less.
Doesn't seem like a lot.
No, it doesn't.
100,000.
It doesn't in a galaxy with 100 billion stars. But gosh, if we just found one or two of those, what a great discovery that would be.
Stay with us. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the laws of physics with the intelligent universe. I'm George Norrie. This is Coast to Coast AM. So if artificial intelligence is going to emerge in the cosmos, who will make it? We'll find out. James Gardner next on Coast to Coast AM. The artificial intelligence that you talk about, Jim, who built it? Who will build it?
Who will build it? I'm going to give you an answer to that in the form of a short quotation, and then I want you to guess when this was made, and I think it'll surprise you.
All right.
Who will be man's successor? To which the answer is, we are ourselves creating our own successors. Man will become to the machine what the horse and the dog are to man. The conclusion being that machines are or are becoming animate. Guess when that was written?
1980.
1863.
By
Samuel Butler in a letter entitled Darwin Among the Machines, right after The Origin of Species was published. He had this incredible prophetic insight that, in fact, we were or would shortly be in the process of essentially creating successor entities, intelligent machines.
These machines, you look at the movie AI, fascinating, and I love the ending. I'm not going to give it away for anybody who didn't see it, even though it's been out for years. It's on video now. These machines, are they self-replicating?
That's one possibility, and that was of course, a scenario that kind of had some horrifying possibilities when people thought about it. Michael Crichton's explored this a little bit.
Sure.
But what is clearly happening now is that the process of design is essentially slipping out of human hands. They're in effect designing themselves. And they're doing it through a method called evolutionary computation, whereby essentially software is given the power of natural selection so that it can improve upon itself without any human intermeddling.
With just about anything, there's positive, negative, there's good, there's bad. In the universe, assuming that what we see is all wonderful and beautiful and good, Where's the negative part of it? It's got to be out there somewhere.
Well, I think that inevitably you're going to see, as we have seen certainly on planet Earth, technology can be harnessed for very evil purposes, destructive purposes, and I can't imagine that there would not be an element of that that's not confined to our little planet.
When you were putting together this book, what was some of your favorite work here?
Well, it was really finding the people and interviewing some